This is the January 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Commission of City Plan. I'm gonna call it to order and do a roll call. It looks like we have a quorum, so that's done. Yeah, we have, it's like we have a full vote. I call for a motion for approval of minute.
This is Ella. I'll make that motion.
You guys are muted.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, I heard that Ella made the motion to approve. Did anybody second? That's when it kind of went mute.
I didn't get that motion. So did somebody make a motion?
Yes, this is Ella. I made the motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, and did somebody second that?
I'll second that.
Got Jim Porto here seconding that motion. Sure.
Okay, just a quick, there are two changes I would like to see made. It said that the town engineer approved the waivers, and I think it should say recommended approval of the waivers. And it's in there a few places.
Okay, well, I can't vote on these anyway. I'm just running at the moment.
Because that's.
So I wasn't at that meeting. So are there any other changes?
No, that was the only change I saw.
Okay, so with those amendments to the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And I'm abstaining.
Okay.
All right. Communications, Basra Events Venue.
Yep, this is Deanna Rhodes on the record. Let you know that Basra had submitted to us as a municipality within 500 feet some changes to their text amendment to their zoning regulations for event venues. They wanted, looks like they wanted to beef up their regulations, so they are now looking for semi-annual reports, permitting coming back yearly for that. There's some issues about sound, how they want to have no more than 100 events per calendar year on any. So this is not specific to any particular property. It's really about their zoning regulations. As far as staff, we have no comments on this zoning regulation. If you don't have to make any comments back to them, it's up to you. We normally don't, but we just bring it to your attention.
So we've received that communication. Under new business, we have a public hearing and potential action on the following special permit application. For the record, I want to state that this is 140 Yantic Road, special permit number 1808. Is that BM?
Yeah.
And then there's also the site development plan after that. That's not a public hearing. That site development plan 1042B, 140 Yantic Road. This property is across the street from the Yantic Fire Department. I'm a member of the Yantic Fire Department. I don't think it puts me into a position of conflict in any way, but if anybody has an objection to me sitting on those matters, you know, you can make that known right now. Okay, hearing none, then we'll proceed. So
Right. Before you open the public hearing, the screen share will now load from the laptop. So I'm gonna run upstairs and join on my computer.
Okay, so you want me to wait till you get there?
If you don't mind.
All right.
You want me to do anything
We're
here?
kind of gonna go into a quick
So, 2-minute pause.
pause.
This is Attorney Rich Roberts. This is
Somewhere along the line.
Yeah. So you know what? Getting first public hearing.
Yeah, I just didn't know how the roads were gonna be.
Yeah, thank you.
Charging is for, oh, I'm only kidding.
Not bad. It's wet. Thank you.
Listening to the weather this morning anyway, I don't know, I haven't listened to it since this morning, it sounded like it wasn't gonna be very good.
Gotta get you to listen.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you know, when.
I think it's coming back down.
Oh, or maybe he's beyond me. We'll see.
Dan are a very large mouse.
Sounds like.
That doesn't sound like
Oh,
Dan
Dan.
footsteps.
No,
It's Mark Fox, what's that?
I thought it was a woman.
Well, hey, yes.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Oh, excuse me.
Probably getting things up or something.
Yeah,
Couldn't
Couldn't
quote
get-
something.
from his computer here.
Okay.
He might not be able to move it upstairs either.
Yeah. That would be good.
No. To go to the hole.
I have the plans.
Right.
I have several, so I
We
can
can hang them up right there.
I've been doing this too long.
I still do that.
Excuse me.
We don't have any of this in Preston.
I want to plug in, these are running around like a crazy person, but. So. Jean Carros, our clerk, is on here on the computer, and she just wanted to say, if when people make the motion, if they could identify themselves, and she's still getting used to who you are, so if you could say your name and that you're making a motion, so she can identify you.
Thank you, especially because it's hard to, like, right now I can't see anybody. So,
I think Dan has you can't see the camera right now at all? It's not
no,
on?
everything's black.
What about the rest of the folks, who are here?
You know what, Dan probably has it, so it's blanked out right now.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, because he couldn't load it. So just wait a couple minutes, Jean, and raise your hand or let us know if you can't see anything when we start doing presentations, okay?
Okay, and is everyone in attendance? Dean,
If we
Kathy?
have, yes, all members are here today.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Ella's online, but everyone
Right.
else is here
I can
present.
see that.
Thank you. I'm gonna go check on him, see if he needs to just.
Yeah, just press call.
Yeah, 'cause it's just easier for me to know if he needs something.
So now we've got two people lost for the, of this.
Yeah.
The next person's.
I'll go.
We'll all be disappearing. Be a murder mystery.
It was.
We'll send Tom next.
Mr. Sheen.
And then who came in after me asked if I knew where the domestic violence meeting was.
Well, it could be there.
We could arrange it.
Oh, the whole city.
Yeah, the city of Norwich.
Oh, that's him, probably, right?
Well, I don't know about the technical stuff.
You know what? I don't either, and I don't want to. It's just, ugh. I asked my daughter how to use it. You need to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, would you For me, I don't want to do it.
I can learn some a lot of it, but the computers just seem to start smoking and explode when I touch them. So, yeah, it was so bad yesterday. I was filling out a probate tax form for a client. So that's-
Online.
Yeah, online, and it keeps coming up with some crazy message. I can't remember what it was. So I said, can you come into my office and watch?
There we go.
So can everyone see the screen now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see the screen. You've got a map up there.
Yep, okay, you're good to continue.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
can see it
fine. So
online
you
as
coming
well.
back down, Dan, or are you gonna
It's
stay up there?
I'm not, I gotta stay up here to do all this.
All right.
The laptop
Okay.
can't handle the amount of information that we have.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All right. Okay, so, I think I already announced what the next matter was, so could we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. This is Jason Porter.
Okay, and a second.
This is Ella, I'll second.
Okay, so we, had a motion by Jason, and I think Kathy was first to second.
No, Ella was.
Ella was?
Okay, yeah.
Whatever. So Ella seconded, so the public hearing on the potential action for the special permit application regarding 140 Yantico Road, special permit number 1808 PM is open. Do we have somebody here to speak on that?
yeah,
We do.
Deanna Brandon Hanfield's online for the applicant.
So Brandon Hamfield's representing the applicant. He's online. He'll do the presentation.
Okay, Brandon, if you wanna identify yourself and tell us what you have for us.
I can do that. For the record, Brandon Hanfield, professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut with Yantic River Consultants located in Lebanon, Connecticut. Here representing the applicant and owner, Mill Development Connecticut LLC. Also on the meeting is Peter Smith, the project architect and manager for Crosskey Architects. There's not a lot going on, or actually there's nothing going on with the building for this application, but he is on if there any questions do arise. Just to quickly go through the application history. This application, both the special permit and site plan were originally approved in 2018 for the conversion of the historic Hale Mill to Hale Mill Inn, which at the time had, can you hear me okay, everybody?
I'm gonna try to see if I can turn the volume up on this a little. Hold
Is the
on.
volume in the bottom right?
Yeah.
On the bottom right.
No, that was size. screen
That's
That's
size.
good size. Hold on, I'm just saying. if
The
I can-
volume is maxed on what you did on the computer.
Yeah, it's maxed right now. So, okay, keep
Okay, so
going,
we're
Brandon.
maxed out on the volume. If you just speak up.
I will do my best to speak up, or if I have to, I can call in on a different line.
No, this is-
I think we can hear you okay.
Okay, great. Just to run back through the approval, so 2018, the Hale Mill project was approved for site development plan as well as special permit for a conversion of the mill to a hotel with, at that time, had slightly over 150 rooms. And the special permit that you approved was specific to the presence of the FEMA floodplain that's on the property. And we'll be going through that later on, but that's what the special permit is in relation to. We've had a number of modifications since 2018. I believe we've had 2 site plan modifications. One of them converted the mill to slightly less rooms, changing the interior footprint and exterior layout associated with SHPO and National Park Service review. And we are here, I think the last plan was approved in 2021 for minor site plan modifications. And we're here today for, again, minor site plan modifications. We're actually proposing to eliminate site features. There's really no change to the mill itself, the functions, or the parking really. What we're looking to do is remove some of the amenities that are in the northwest corner of the property that were originally approved. And some of those amenities are within the floodplain. So the public hearing is in direct relation to the presence of that Zone AE FEMA floodplain. What you have in front of you here is an existing condition. So the original survey that Franklin Surveys did for us back in 2018, overlaid on the 2019 aerial. Not much site work had occurred at that time, as you can see. The property is outlined in orange. It's a little over 5 acres. To the north or your left, it's bordered by the railroad corridor. To up on the page or to the east would be Yannick Road, and across the street would be the fire department. At the bottom of your page, I believe that's Fitchville Road, so that would be to the right or south. Sorry, I didn't mean bottom, I meant to the right. And the bottom of the page, which would be west, that's the Route 2 off-ramp, as well as the historical head race that actually flows through the mill and then underneath Yantic Road and discharges to the Yannick River down to the southeast. Outlined in teal would be the wetlands that were flagged as part of Giant Ianni's delineation. In blue is the water limits of the old head race. So those water limits are no longer flooded. But back in the day of operation, that entire area would have been flooded as part of the operation. And then in bright green, you see around the entire property, that is the limit of the FEMA floodplain. So the entire property, except for the far northwestern corner, lies within a zone AE, which means the flood elevations have been determined. There are approximately 112 on this property. So in essence, everything around the mill building lies within the FEMA floodplain. I will give some anecdotal evidence. I did go down there after that last rainfall when the Yannick River was quite flooded. I guess, southeast corner of the building and Yannick Road did have some minor flooding from the Yannick River. So it was quite a historic flood there, but there was some water over the road. It could have been localized urban, but it's likely some backwater from the Pleasant Street Bridge. I did go back into the north end of the property to see if there's any backup of water onto the property, and there wasn't. So the FEMA maps generally use elevation to establish their flood elevations. And in this case, they're assuming that the water is level across Yannick Road on our property. And it's simply not panning out in reality. So what's happening is the water elevation where our site is discharging is much lower to the southeast. So we're not getting that full backup that FEMA is projecting, but regardless, we're assuming it could flood, and we're here to go through the special permit process. All right. Yeah, we can go to the next page. So what you have in front of you is the last approved site development plan, and that is a really bright magenta. And that might be for me. I hope it doesn't stay in the way. If it does, you can hit delete. There you go. So this is the original 2021 or the last approved site plan that you saw. Again, it shows the mill in its same configuration in orange. Parking to the south and access to the south off of Yannick Road, serving a small parking lot up front, and then access to the north again to Yannick Road at the railroad, serving parking to the north of the building. And what I've done is I've outlined in magenta the areas that we're really discussing that are changing within the floodplain and on the site for the site development plan application as well. So you have a tennis and basketball court to the far north corner. You have a playground immediately adjacent to it, and you have a sidewalk that connects those amenities all the way back to the hotel. And in order to construct that sidewalk, there was a retaining wall built on the west side of that sidewalk that was right up to the wetlands, and it connected the old stone masonry wall along the mill all the way out to the tennis court. Those features, so the tennis court, the playground, the sidewalk, and the retaining wall, we're proposing to remove. And the amenities for the hotel will be solely within the hotel itself. Again, that all of those activities except for the far north corner of the tennis court are within the zone AE. So we can go to the current proposed plan. All right, hopefully we get that same, there we go. So in essence, nothing has changed out of the building to the south of the building to the access points or most of the parking to the north. But within that magenta area, you see the tennis court's now gone, the playground's now gone. The sidewalk along the westerly edge of the parking has been eliminated, as well as that retaining wall. It's been replaced with a timber guide rail, and then it will be a vegetated embankment down to the wetlands. As you saw in your memorandums, the wetlands did approve it, to improve the change, and there was minimal changes to the impact to the wetland. Actually, the square footage of disturbance remained the same. So that's the high level changes that you see. I think the next sheet should be an overlay of the two. And this shows the previously approved plan in magenta, and the proposed plan would be black, and the pavement limits would be a tan color. So everything in magenta that you see is being eliminated. So again, the tennis court, the playground's been eliminated, the sidewalk, the retaining wall. And then you'll see some minor changes to the parking spaces themselves along the westerly edge. What we did is, instead of having a 20-foot by 9-foot parking space, we went to an 18-foot by 10-foot. That allowed us to pull the pavement away from the wetlands and generally match the existing grades that exist today in that area from the historic mill. So that allowed us to have a vegetated slope with minimal impact to the wetlands and provide a code compliant parking space. So in essence, we did lose 6 parking spaces by doing this, but we still comply with the minimum requirements of your regulations, and we were able to minimize any change to the impact to the wetlands. And then what you'll see in terms of floodplain on the next sheets, actually, Dan, we can skip the next sheet. That's basically the same thing. We can go right to the grading and drainage. So this, I won't stay on long, but this is the approved grading drainage plan. Drainage is shown in blue. Again, you can see those sidewalks and connecting amenities out to the tennis court. And what I did is I outlined the area magenta where we're actually lowering grade to match existing conditions. So before, because we had those amenities, we had to build them up and also bench them into the steeper slopes. This resulted in the parking lot being elevated slightly above existing conditions. So in summary, there was a slight amount of fill in that corner within the floodplain. We do have, because of the historic structure, we were able to do that. But as you see on the next sheet, by eliminating those features, I was able to lower the parking area. There we go. So I was able to add a catch basin. Again, all of this drainage has been installed. So I added that one catch basin right there being circled by Dan. It connects to the existing system without any changes to what's been installed. And by doing that, I was able to lower the entire parking lot to match existing conditions. So what this does is lower any fill or reduce any fill that is being placed in the floodplain. So it's actually back to the way it's always been. And we don't need to fan the parking and the sidewalk up to meet those amenities. And then as you see to the left side of the magenta cloud, we do have some sloping back to those steep slopes. So what we're doing here, eliminating those amenities, they're found to be not consequential to the Hale Mill itself or the restoration and the use of the building. We're able to lower the parking lot within the floodplain and basically meet existing conditions. In this case, we generally aren't filling at all, other than smoothing off slopes to provide our drainage. So there's really no fill in the floodplain. And we feel this is an improvement over what we have originally approved without major changes to the original decision. Let's see here. Before going on to any flood impact statements or special permit criteria, are there any questions on the changes that are in front of you?
Anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, no questions for you, Brian.
Okay.
Dan?
Yeah, so I'll just
Done
quickly.
for the special permit, or
I think he's gonna go over the criteria. I think he's at the.
okay,
Yeah, and I won't go over it long. Again, I think I summarized that we're lowering any fill in the floodplain, and we do feel we meet your regulations in terms of the floodplain criteria. So it is our opinion the proposed mill restoration project and the proposed minor site and modifications continue to meet section 3.4.7 of the regulations to the greatest extent practicable, given the historic and physical limitations of the site. And in accordance with 3.4.7.6.2, we request the waiver from the requirement to provide compensatory storage be applied to these proposed minor site modifications due to the existence of the following. The provision that such storage will adversely impact the historical integrity of the existing structures on the site. This really applies to the fact that the mill itself is within a floodplain. The elevation of that floodplain is 112.0, and the mill itself is at elevation 112.0. So we're really not able to completely adhere to compensatory storage and provide access to this building in its conversion. So it really applies to what has already been approved. What we're proposing here is an improvement within the floodplain by reducing any fill, but we do want that original waiver to still apply. And the last thing I'll say is the proposed modifications within the special flood hazard area consist of regrading the northern corner of the site as a result of the removal of the tennis court and playground. The proposed grading generally matches original grades and will not adversely impact flood elevations or storage. And then the last thing, in your memorandum, there was a note regarding the special permit criteria. I'm happy to not go through them all, but I can if you would like me to. But we do feel we meet section 7.7.6 of the regulations and the 13 special permit criteria that are listed within those regulations. Again, I'm happy to go through them if you'd like me to, but those have all been already approved and we don't feel there's a major change from these modifications. And then the last thing I'll say is section 7.7.91 and 9.2 were mentioned in the memorandum. And we do agree that we can comply with those two sections in terms of filing before any zoning permits are issued.
Anything else from the applicant?
That is it on our end, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hanfield?
I do not, no.
Would you like me to go through staff things first, or do you want to bring it to the public for any?
I think let's do the public first. So, is there anybody from the public here who wishes to be heard concerning this application? Anybody from the public who wishes to be heard concerning the application? Last time, anybody from the public?
Dan, is there anyone online?
I don't believe so, no.
All right,
Okay, so given no response, if you want to go through the staff report.
sure. I have a list of exhibits. I'll just go through what they are and quickly touch on a few. Special permit application with the supporting documents, the site plan that was dated for 26/19 revised to 9/5/23. There was a transmittal. The legal notice was published on 1/12/24 and 1/19/24. There was a narrative submitted, which Brandon just went over. There was a referral to the town of Franklin. We received no comments from them. I do have comments from the city engineer, and I would, if you wouldn't mind, if Brandon could just address those really quickly for me.
Please.
So Brandon, the limits for installation of erosion and sediment control blankets on the slope as shown on sheet A are preferred. The notes calling out the work are slightly misleading as part of the slopes may not be greater than 6 feet in height. The note should be modified to read install North American Green S150 or equal as shown. The bond estimate is acceptable. Do you concur with Brian's comments?
We do. The hatched area shown on an erosion control plan that we submitted will be the limits of the erosion and sedimentation control blanket. The note he's referring to is standard and out of the book, but in this case, we agree to follow the plan and not the general note.
Thank
So
you.
that will be-
Then there was a fire marshal review, and it was dated fire marshal comment 12/12, and let me read this to you. Spoke with Brandon on the proposed modifications. I have no issues with the elimination, adjustments, exceptions. I would like to see the hydrant remain, if not in the northwest corner, then somewhere in the middle of the parking lot. The new electric vehicles pose a significant fire hazard and are difficult, if not impossible, to extinguish. This hydrant will provide the volume of water needed to fight this type of fire, was comment number 1. Comment number 2 is On sheet 6, the water mains for the sprinkler system are in 2 areas on the side of the building facing the fire station. If approved, plans had the fire main on the opposite side of the building. The actual location will have to be decided on, and when that is done, sprinkler calculations will possibly have to be redone. Do you want to address those 2 comments?
Sure, I did speak with the fire marshal and agreed that we can put the hydrant back in. Just for reference, we had a hydrant shown all the way at the northwest corner of the parking lot next to the tennis court. It was an awfully wrong, and it's not really shown. I do have the plans in that set, Dan, but it's I think 2 or 3 down. So basically in the bottom left corner, we can get there here. There we go. That's the proposed, so I don't have it. So right there, I showed a hydrant next to the tennis court, right where Dan has his cursor. It was over 200 feet of 6-inch main that had to be installed to get it there. Once we eliminated those uses, we retracted the water main extension to the hydrant that's next to the building. What the fire marshal would like is a hydrant in the center island, right, up, left, right there. Yep. And we agreed to do that. So, and that'll allow them to fight those fires within the parking lot as he wants it, and have a general radius to get their hoses to the cars that are parked in that area. So we did agree to do that, and we will show that on the final plans if you're willing to apply conditions of approval for the fire marshal's comments. The second thing, we do show a second location for the sprinkler room. There's a little bit of ongoing design internally with regards to the MEPs and where the sprinkler room will be and where it will be served from. So currently, we're sticking with the original plan where the fire will come in the northeast corner of the building as shown on this screen. There were proposals to entertain it being further to the south on the Yannick Road side. I do show an alternate location there. And we agree that if the sprinkler room moves, new MEPs and sprinkler calculations would need to be submitted and confirmed by the fire marshal's office. So we do agree that if it is going to move, new calculations will be submitted for their approval.
Thank you. The next thing is,
Can I just ask?
Yes.
So the fire marshal wanted the water main moved. Is that correct?
well, the hydrant was going to be removed and then he wanted to put back in,
Yeah.
but they're putting it back in a different location, not as
Right,
far.
right.
away.
And then the water main,
If they move where that,
Sprinkler connection.
the sprinkler connection is, they need to bring it back to, it needs to, new calculations for that sprinkler calculations, okay? And then my memo is, was dated the 16th of January. I think Brandon went over most of the comments. I really didn't have anything that was, glaring that needed to be addressed at all. I did have some recommended conditions of approval. Should you make a favorable decision on that? And again, I concur with the waiver for the compensatory storage and all conditions has already been done and that remains in effect. So if you look at my memo, it would be items number 7 of my memo, which would be recommended to be the conditions of approval. The proof of required mailings were submitted and done appropriately, and the wetlands approval was given, as Brandon stated. And just so you remember that this had an extension at your previous meeting because the time frame was expiring and we knew that they were coming back. So my recommendation on my memo would be that because you did give them time, let me see how much did. You approved a 5-year extension request to 2/18/2028 for them to finish the project. So the condition of this, that I would like to see that this the site plan, the special permit on the site plan would expire 10 years, the original date, which is that 12/18/2028, because they did get a 5-year extension. So if we could do it to that date, because that was the date of the extension. And that is in my comments of item 7 of my memo. And that's it for you. So conditions would be my memo and that adding the fire marshal and engineers comments as well to be addressed.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
Any members of the public have any questions? Okay, hearing no further comments from anybody, then we can have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion. I'm Kathy Rusika.
Okay, so Kathy's made a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
This is Jason
by Jim
Quarter. I'd like
Porter.
to second that motion.
Okay, Jason Quarter seconds it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Do we want to hear the site development plan proposals first, or do you want
No,
to
make a
take
motion.
action on the
Yes, if you could take action on the special permit.
all right, so we've closed the public hearing. Does anybody want to make a motion concerning special permit 1808BM?
I'll make a motion that we approve the special permit with the condition, with the following conditions or modifications, that the town engineer's comments be addressed, that the fire marshal's comments be addressed, and that Deanna Rhodes' comments, number 7 on her memo be addressed.
Right, so we have a motion for approval with the conditions. Do we have a second?
This
Second.
is Ella, I'll second.
Yeah, I think Jim beat you to the punch that time, Ella. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, so that's approved with the conditions as set out.
So it was unanimously approved, just so we know that.
Yes.
Okay, unanimously, okay, thank you.
Wait a minute.
We wait to wait. Look,
Right,
Do you have a question?
She's asking about Jason as an alternate,
because
so.
we have a full commission.
So Jason would not be seated until you see him
Right.
afterwards. So Jason, you're not seated at this point. So he did make motions though, so,
I know, I just thought of that.
so,
We can seat Jason, we have room for him,
Do-
right?
No,
so 5 regular members and you have 5 regular members
We
here,
have
so.
5 regular?
Yeah, you already made some motions with Jason, attorney, which should we do?
Okay.
Well,
The motion was to open the public hearing and then to second it to close the public hearing.
yeah, I don't think you need to worry about the motion to open the public hearing, but if you just go through the motions, literally. To close the public hearing and approve it again, with somebody else making it and seconding it.
Okay,
Okay, so as I understand it from council, that is recommending we move again to close the public hearing.
Yep.
So can we have a motion to close the public hearing then?
Kathy made the motion originally.
Kathy made the
We
motion,
need a different second.
no second,
This is Ella, I'll second.
seconded by Ella Miles. Any discussion regarding this? Okay, so the motion to close the public hearing, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So the public hearing is closed.
So Jason just isn't seated for the other decision.
You wanted to sit over there or?
No.
Jason, you will probably be seated on that, on other things.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I'm not gonna be involved in the last.
Yeah, so do you want me to talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, so the motion to approve the,
The special permit does not apply to this, so let me start this if you want to.
no,
Okay.
I'm just trying to, did
Oh.
Jason second the motion for
No, Jason,
approval?
the second for the motion to approve is Kathy and Jim Porto seconded, and then
Okay.
for the conditions that Jason just didn't. was
So we're
not
good.
counted. Yep, you're good.
Okay, so the next matter is the site development plan or for 140 Yantic Road, SDP 1042B. So do you want to speak on that?
Sure, so Brandon, I know you're here as well, but what I'm
And
gonna
just
say
for the-
is,
Just for the record, this isn't part of the public hearing. This is not a public hearing on this particular matter.
so I would say that all the comments that were related to the site plan that were for the special permit are all relevant and entered into the record here for this meeting. So this is really just the site plan. I did do a separate memo for this. The same comments are still relevant, the fire marshal's memo.
Let me ask this,
Sure.
council, do you think we should make a motion to use that information for this second,
That would-
application.
all the testimony from the previous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Incorporate all the testimony from the public hearing into
Yeah, rather than just
Oh,
go over it
the
again.
end stating it, so. Could somebody make a motion then to, that the testimony and evidence from the public hearing be carried over and utilized for this site development plan proposal?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
This is
it.
Ella, I'll second.
Do you need to do it, Ella? So we have a motion and a second to utilize the information from the previous hearing on this application. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right.
Who did the second, please?
Dean Mason.
Dean, okay, thank you.
So again, everything from the previous public hearing is testimony for this. The same fire marshal memo, the same engineering memo on this particular one. We normally don't do this way and have a special permit and then a separate site plan, but it was done this way originally from the very beginning, so we've just been following it through that way. Normally, a special permit has a site plan with it, so we don't really break it out. So this, I do have a different memo for this one dated 1/16/2024. And it says to review the criteria, which we already talked about. And that all conditions and instructions from previous approvals, site development plan 1042 and 1042A shall remain in effect. And then there's other standard conditions that the approved building floor plans and elevation views for the hotel are not modified by this approval. Everything, the notification was made to town clerk in Franklin. There is no notification to abutters on a site plan. So I would say, should you make a favorable motion on this, the conditions would be that they, that the modifications to the site plan, they ought be included as my comments number 2 in this, and that the city engineer's memo and fire marshal's memo are also addressed. That's my only comments. Brandon, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think we covered it. So if there's no questions, happy to let the meeting move on.
All right, so does anybody have any questions regarding the site development plan?
And I do want to say one more thing, and you know, it's always, you should always put the reasons on the record, and so on the previous one, we think it was very clear that Brandon addressed that they did meet those criteria. And this one, the proposal does conform with chapter 5 and 7.5 of the zoning regulations. Okay.
So does anybody want to make a motion concerning this particular application?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm trying to let somebody else do it.
All right, so we have an application to approve the site development plan with the
With comment 2 and all the conditions that Deanna read.
The engineer and the
Yeah.
fire marshal. Okay.
and do we have a second for that motion?
This is Ella, I'll second.
All right, Ella, we're gonna give you that one. All right, so Ella made the second. We have the motion and the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So that was approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could just wait 2 minutes, because Dan needs to be able to upload everything that he has on the thumb drive, so the applicants can do their presentation too, and they are here in person to do that. But Dan will be calling it up on the computer screen.
On the Main Street one?
Yes. So if you could just wait 1 moment.
I'm just hoping that that hotel eventually gets done.
Oh, the Hail Mill?
The Hale Mill, because
It's under
they're
construction. now.
working.
It's under construction.
I know, but that started when I was planner here. It's a
Yeah,
long time
that
ago.
was a whole different.
No, I know it was, but
whole
you know, you
different
just
group.
kind of wanted to want to see it come to
Crazy ladies, you know.
Xena, right? Xena and what was the guy's
We're
name?
on the record.
Excuse me.
That being said, the presentation is loaded if we want to move on.
Just remember Xena.
Sydney.
Sydney.
Yes,
Thanks, Claire.
Sydney and Xena, yes.
Don't report that.
Is Dan ready?
Dan, are you gonna be ready?
You can see it on the screen, correct?
Yeah,
And so do you want me to, so Frank,
So are you good?
you want to introduce it and then the applicant come up?
Yeah,
yeah, so you're okay?
yep, go ahead.
Okay, so the next matter is site development plan 1050 337 to 341 Main Street, site plan review for 8 one-bedroom apartments located within the former YMCA building as part of a mixed-use development application of 337 through 351 Main Street LLC, property of the city of Norwich, assessors map 102, block 6, lots 47 through 49, zone CC.
There's also, just to let you know, there's also a CAM application that's related to this and it does have a CAM number 23-02. Okay, which is the coastal area management, so there'll be a
Is that
separate,
on the agenda?
it's part of this application.
Okay.
It's not really a separate application, it just says a CAM review.
And what was the number for the CAM?
23-02.
All right, so is the applicant here to make a presentation?
Yes. Where's a good spot to stand?
Why don't you stand right there? I don't know. Can you see him if he stands right there, Dan?
Yep,
Okay, so that's a good place and spell your name and everything too on the record.
You got it. Good evening. On the record, I am Eric Mattern, president of Mattern Construction and member of 337 to 355 Main Street LLC. This project, being named Crossings at 345, is an adaptive reuse of the former Norwich YMCA located at the east end of Main Street next to the Burnham Square intersection. At the core of our submission this evening is a proposal for converting one of the existing buildings into residential units. Identified as Building C on our development plans, this building previously contained a lower level running track, a children's daycare on the second floor, and office space on the third floor. In our submitted plan, we would convert the lower level of Building C to covered parking for residents. And the second and third floors would allow for 8 one-bedroom apartments with elevator access to all units. The balance of the buildings at Crossings would be converted for occupancy by locally owned and operated restaurant, retail, and office tenants, supporting job creation and walkable attractions in downtown, as well as putting this property back on the tax roll. In my opinion, which I believe is shared by many in the city and community, this project is of significant importance to the continued revitalization of downtown Norwich and will be the first of many that bring new life to Main Street and beyond. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation to Tom Cummings of CLA Engineers to discuss the site plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Cummings, CLA. Dan, I think the site plan 4 or 5. That's a good one. This is the YMCA building, which I think we're all familiar with, and with the rear end removed. The area where the gym is gonna be demolished. In fact, it's part of the remediation program or mitigation program that's going on now to environmental program. And in the place of where that building or that portion of the building is going to be posed for parking. And the access to the rear of that building has always been there. We're just going to improve it from that standpoint. And the parking lot, as you face the building on the left side, across from the new hotel, that's going to remain essentially the same. It's going to be rebuilt, but it's going to be lessened, less paving for drainage reasons and for the development of the old racquetball courts. The parking on the site, well, the Y only had 4 parking spaces when it was there, but the city with the parking, and the city is dedicated 15 spots in the back parking lot next to the Norwich Bulletin. And so if the parking goes from 33 to 53 on the site with plus an additional 15. the zone doesn't require, it has no parking requirements at all, but it service the building. The utilities.
I'm sorry, did
Yeah.
Eric say that the no parking was gonna be covered?
Oh,
Or did
you
I
see,
misunderstand that?
see the parking underneath see the different colored,
Yeah.
that's the residential portion of
And
the
that's
site.
covered?
And that's gonna be covered, the bottom portion that you park underneath, and the upper 2 stories are,
Where the apartments.
where the
are.
apartments are gonna be.
I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, and there's access from that parking to the apartments. And the utilities are all, the building's already served with 6-inch line. I mean, it had sprinkler system and domestic. Also with the racquetball court area, there's proposed for utilities to serve that portion of the building separately, which is gonna be a restaurant, as the secret everybody knows. And so there's separate service for that portion of the site. The drainage has all been approved. It remains essentially the same, although we're in doing this development, there's going to be more green space there now than there is presently. So, and we're putting a rain garden in the corner, and we're just improving the drainage as best as possible. And it was going through the city engineer, and it's been approved, so that the drainage is all taken care of. We provided a lighting program to the town showing illumination, and there's going to be additional lamps for the parking, especially for the middle parking, and then around the building itself. And it's an existing building, so there isn't much, there it is. And other than removing the back part of it, and putting parking there, it's essentially the same development, same place, same everything.
The apartments that are being proposed, what size are they?
Matt Burns Jacobson, I'm the architect.
Matt, could you spell your last name for our first one?
Sure. It's hyphenated. It's BYRNES hyphen JACOBSEN. I've done that a few times. Architect on the project, working with the client, Tom. Your question was regarding the size of the.
Yeah, the units that are being proposed, what are they?
There's 8, they're basically identical 1-bedroom units. Each of them is roughly 700 square feet. So they're certainly
Right, here's that.
appropriate for the for a 1-bedroom. So there's 4 on level 2, that's building C, there's 4, and then stacked above that is the same exact 4 above on the 3rd level.
Are they gonna be affordable?
That's not the intent, market rate.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to go over the architecture?
Sure, I'm happy to walk through the architecture, so, Dan, you wanna just, zoom out a little bit? On that, yeah, great. So, level 1, what we're calling level 1, is the lowest level. I'm sure, like Tom said, most of you are familiar with the site, but, out front at street level is, about halfway up. The grade in the back is lower. So level 1 in building A is, halfway underground, basement-esque, right? So on that level, in the lowest, in building A, there's going to be a tenant that will also be connected to a lobby on lobby space on level 2, the next level up. And also on level 1, you see the parking below building C, which is the apartment building that we're talking about. Building B, to the left of that is the former racquetball building, which will have a anticipated use in. And then building D right now is basically existing to remain, except for basic upgrades to make sure that the building is safe, secure, weather tight, so on and so forth, in preparations for hopefully a future tenant at some point. Moving up to the level 2, so if you just scroll above, thanks. What we're calling kind of street level, which is actually an elevated concrete plaza, roughly 4.5 feet above street level. There's a larger plaza similar to how you enter the building now, but that plaza will be much larger, so it can actually be inhabited by people that are visiting the future tenants of the spaces on level 2 of building A. So there are 3 tenant spaces. I think A 102 and 103 are basically the same, roughly 1,200 square feet. And A 101 is around the same, slightly larger lobby that creates access for office space on the story above on level 3 in building A, as well as office space in the lower level, level 1. You can also see that just above where Dan's hand is, where it says tenant A 101, there's a existing stairwell and existing elevator shaft. There's no elevator in that today, but we will put an elevator into that shaft or that location. That will become a common corridor, both for elevator access to the tenant A 101, as well as to the residents above, obviously secure doorways in those common places. Moving up to level 2, which is the bottom left corner. Yep, we'll get it. Level 3, like I said, of building A will be office space. The 2 stairwells there on the top right of building A and the top left of building A are existing. They'll be maintained and reused as egress stairs. And then building C is the level 3 of the residential. Dan, if you zoom in on that just a little bit, you can see kind of a dashed line in the bottom left corner of building C. Yeah, it starts roughly where his hands cursor is right now. That's actually not enclosed space right now. It's roof space on the level 3 or level 2 rather. And we're going to enclose that in order to make a full rectangle up and have 4 residential units on exactly right there. Thanks, Dan. And then we can take a quick look at the roof plan, which is up above. Basically, we're all the roofs are going to be redone and not only resurfaced but resloped appropriately so that we're draining water to the places that we want them to go, rather than into the building or not what we're planning. So that's good from a floor plan standpoint. Dan, if you want to switch to I think the elevations are next. Yeah, maybe start in the middle there. So that's that street front elevation from the north, the proposed. For the most, you see the brick building, you're probably all familiar with the kind of tile infill between the upper windows up there. We're going to be removing that, and the intent is to match the existing bricks so that it fills in nicely. Otherwise, the existing windows on that second floor, besides that corner curtain wall, are the existing locations, just new windows. On the left-hand side of that elevation, we're going to be intending to open up the corner of that with some large curtain wall glass, bring a lot more light and kind of create a beacon for the development. You can also see The railings kind of working their way up a ramp in the front, as well as behind that, as you get up to the top of the ramp and the stairs on both the right and the left is that raised, raised concrete plaza. Also at the front, we'll be opening up two larger storefront elevations for the other two tenants, obviously make it much more appealing for a retail or other commercial tenant to want to be in that place and have a little bit more visibility from potential clients and customers from the street. Above that, you'll see a little bit of a band, and that's a canopy coming out from the front of the facade to give a little bit of cover area, both for people, you know, coming into the entrance. Also, if there ended up being a cafe or some sort of space that might, tenant rather, that might like some outdoor sitting space or something, then there's that space for that. Let's see, as we wrap around the building, what's west? Go ahead, up, Dan. Yeah. So as we walk around the building, the larger kind of lower building that you see to the there is that existing former large pool building. That's the one that will mostly remain as is at the as part of this project, just cleaning up, painting, making sure it's weathertight. You also see that canopy on the front building A, wrapping around the side to come down that part of the plaza as well.
So can I ask a question? So the old pool area is just gonna stay there? And it's not gonna be anything inside of it?
Not right now. There's nothing identified for that. There's been a bunch of back and forth conversations among the client and other people, so it's kind of unknown whether it would be a pool use or some other use in the future, which is the reason for kind of leaving it be at the moment until more is determined.
And there's no windows in that at all?
No.
No.
It's pretty enclosed.
Yeah, like, it's been a while.
All right, Dan, you wanna jump down to the next one? All right, now we've wrapped around the. Okay, now we're coming around the other side of the building from, so basically where you are right now is, you can't see the racquetball building. The racquetball building is essentially right behind the camera, right, the drawing. So you're seeing the new addition, so the infill on this is the residential building. You're seeing the infill where the new apartments are going on the third level that I was referring to on the plan. You're also seeing some opening of former windows on the second level, just below Dan's cursor. And that's where the level 2 residential units would be. Moving down from that are existing openings that we're going to maintain. A couple of them are going to be enlarged to be actual access ways rather than just walkways, and that's where the parking would be just beyond that wall. That walkway in between the two buildings was previously essentially indoor space with a roof. This will again have a roof to help deal with some of the drainage and snow and such that can come. It can be difficult in those type spaces, but it will be completely open air. Go ahead down, Dan. So I'll start on the east. Go down one more, Dan, sorry. Thanks. So this is the rear of the development. You're seeing on the left-hand side, the back of that existing pool building. In the middle, you're seeing the back of building A. And you can see a vertical line just kind of 2/3 of the way to the right. Yeah, exactly right there. To the right of that line is building C, where the residential units and parking below are. So right now, the building A, the rear of building A that you see, that's where the gymnasium and those middle buildings that are going to get demolished are right now. So we're anticipating we can see some of the brick now, but we're anticipating that there's some more brick that's behind some walls. You know, so the intent is to keep it as much brick as possible. There is on the third floor an indentation, and there's going to be an area where there's an exterior roof deck, potentially, as well as an infilled section just to the right of that. The open area is actually that full width. Some of that will be taken back as interior space and a little bit of an infill. The other part will be exterior space. On the second floor, we're gonna add in some level 2 is kind of the backside of those tenant spaces that we were looking at, A102 and A101. And so we're gonna add some windows in there and get some natural light into the back of those spaces. And then on the lowest level, because the level 1 there, it's gonna be office space down there is the intent. And there's not really much natural light around the remainder of that building because of the grades on the front of the building. So we're really trying to open up the back of that and let a lot of natural light into that lowest level. So it's more enjoyable and comfortable to be down there.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so the 4 windows in the middle that have the that are not brick. What is that material in between the windows?
Well, the apartments are on up
Yeah.
there level.
Yeah, the third.
In the middle building? So
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there
yeah.
where he's circling?
Yes.
The intent is for some vertical composite type material. Ideally would look to have a contrast and kind of warm up that brick around it. So we're treating all of the areas that are additions to the existing building as what they are, an addition versus trying to you know, match them in, which will likely not succeed.
No, right.
Can you
Why
show
don't you
one second,
Yeah,
can
go
you
ahead,
show the one that looks almost like this one? Do you have that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Dan, if you want to go to the rendering at the end, please. That's it.
Did you have a question, Jim?
Oh, yes, the old pool, that small pool that used to be inside, what did you end up doing with that? Just filled it in or?
Right now, that demolition of that is part of the city's hazardous material project. But yes, likely it would end up getting removed and then that would be infilled with you know, fill and such as needed to build the parking lot that's going back there.
So there's the.
This is the view if you were coming from Burnham Square, looking towards that main glass opening on the corner on Main Street.
Looks great. Looks
So
good.
no
Yeah.
more YMCA sign out there. Yeah.
It's real good.
So Frank, Dan did the review on this. Do you want to hear from him about his memo or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. Unless, are you finished?
No, yeah, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to
Does
answer.
the applicant have any other comments to their presentation?
No comments.
Yeah, so Dan, if you want to go ahead and give us your input on it.
Sure, just give me 1 second here. So just a quick note, the site plan review applies to the residential portion of the development as all the commercial uses are allowed by zoning permit in the Chelsea Central District. We already talked about where the apartments are located on the second and third floors in the rear of the building. The commercial use fronts on Main Street. It's been reviewed, sent to other departments for comments and review. They've been sent to Tom and the team for incorporation into the final plan set. I do have comments from the fire marshal that we just received today that I sent along to Tom. So I would ask that if someone makes a motion to approve it, it would include adding the fire marshal comments being addressed. We did send it to CAM. They reviewed it and found that it was consistent. So that's all set. We heard back from them either today or yesterday. It's coastal, so there's no local wetlands approvals needed. The proposed residential square footage does not exceed the square footage of the commercial use. As Tom mentioned before, parking is increasing with the demolition of the building in the back. There are no parking requirements in Chelsea Central, but they are improving what exists there now. We did receive a light photometric. We're recommending that native non-invasive species be put on the site. I don't know if anyone wants to discuss that on the site plan. We can go back to that page if you'd like. We ask that you verify the ENS controls on sheet 5, that they're consistent. Any signage that goes up in the Chelsea Central District has to be approved by Deanna and reviewed by the zoning officer. The city engineer is okay with the bond amount. The site is located within a highly sensitive area, but it's extensively disturbed. We just ask that a note be added saying if you find anything when you're doing site work to stop and let us know. And I'd ask, in the interest of time, to waive the reading of all these bullet points in my memo, but they be included in any motion. And the reasons stated on the record would be the proposal conforms to section 2.6, chapter 5, section 6.5, and section 7.5 of the zoning regulations.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? For Dan or the applicant?
So the first motion that you would need to make is the approved CAM application 2302. And in the past, we approved that adequate erosion and sediment controls are installed and maintained. And that the proposal is consistent with all applicable policies and standards of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. Those are the reasons why. But a motion first needs to be made for CAM to approve that, and then we can move on to the site plan.
I just have a quick question. So the river is right behind it.
So Dan, do you want to go back to the site plan real quick?
Yep.
River's on the other side of the
Railroad track.
Oh, okay.
The viaduct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's not as close as you think.
Yeah, okay.
The
Yeah.
railroad tracks are right there.
But
All right.
because it still falls within the coastal
Yeah,
area.
yeah, yeah. So that,
So there really isn't an impact. There's
Yeah.
no reason to ask for like, you know, a lot of times when it's right on the waterfront, they want public access, but there
No,
is no
there's
reason
no,
for
right,
that. Okay?
Yeah, that's not possible.
what the vegetation was on the slope, but it's not owned by this,
No.
right? So, all right.
One other quick question, what's the time frame to have a tenancy? What do you think?
You want to take it? This is Eric Mattern, estimated time frame for the first tenant, which would be the racquetball building, is by late third quarter of this year. And then the ideal, the next would be the apartment units, and then the building 1 commercial, 3 commercial units. With those ideally completely leased out by mid 2025, if not third quarter 2025. As Matt mentioned, the existing auditorium, the large pool building, it's to be determined what type of commercial use we want to put that to. So for now, it's just stabilization. But we will be marketing that space, you know, throughout the development process.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I just want to make sure that all the parking and sidewalks and everything is in before any COs are granted, just for safety purposes. Because I know sometimes with the pond, you don't worry about it,
But I think that the majority of that is already paved, and I know that the tenants that are looking at going in there are definitely not, you know, they need the paid parking
Right.
and residents,
be
so.
done before.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we usually only do the bonding of like paid parking when it's in the middle of winter, you know, and then you get to get the bond, but. I prefer if I know someone's getting close, it's like, get it done, you know, we really
Yeah.
push on not taking the bonds for those kind of
Yeah,
improvements.
I'd like to, just make sure that it's done before anybody moves in. Yep.
Anything else? Somebody want to make a motion?
So the CAM one first, please.
Okay, a motion to approve the CAM.
I'll make a motion to approve the CAM application because it is consistent with all coastal use and resource policies.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by
I'll second.
Gordo.
Yeah.
So, motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right,
Aye. Okay, so the CAM application is approved,
Unanimously, okay.
and we have a motion regarding the site plan. Or the site development plan itself.
so I'll make the motion that we accept the site development plan as laid out by Deanna. Can I say
Okay,
it like
so
that?
it's Dan's, it would be Dan's memo, the conditions and memo, item number 13 of his memo.
Is
Is
that
that
your
okay?
intent of your motion?
Absolutely.
So the motion is to approve the site development plan 1050 with the conditions set out in Dan Deniska's memo.
And could we add the fire marshal comment to that as well, please?
And in accordance with the fire marshal
Yes,
permits.
Thank you.
So that's Jim's motion. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Deanna.
Okay,
Kathy.
And Kathy, yeah.
I get to make motion.
No, you Second by Kathy Warzika. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
all right,
Aye.
That's unanimous, so that's approved with the conditions as set out.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
Dan,
right,
Dan, do you need a moment?
well, it's wonderful.
Not for this one, no.
Okay.
okay, so the next matter is
Yeah.
site development plan 1051 Street North C Street, and there's a request to table this matter
Yep, I'd like to
to
read that.
227.
Yep, I'd like to read it into the record from Brandon Canfield. Hi, Deanna, thank you for taking the time to discuss the above referenced application with me this morning. I understand that staff review is in the process and will be forwarded soon. Recognizing that the application is listed on the agenda for the CC meeting next Tuesday. There is not sufficient time for us to receive, review, address, and respond to staff comments in advance of the 1/23/24 meeting date. We request that the application be moved to 2/27/24 CCP meeting, which will provide additional time for our team to adequately address any comments in a final revised submission and staff to update review letters and recommendations before our presentation and discussion with the commission. Application site development plan 23-7 was received by CCP at the 12/19/23 regular meeting. Section 7.5.4.8 of the regulations requires a decision to be rendered for the site plan within 65 days of receipt, which would be no later than 2/22/24, unless an extension is granted. Please consider this email a formal consent to extension of 7 days to allow the application to be heard and acted upon at 2/27/24 CCP meeting. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks, Brandon Hamfield, owner, civil engineer, Yantic River Consultants. So they did a consent to an extension so we can get to our meeting in February, which is on the 27th. So we need a motion to table.
With that request, do we have a motion to table this site development plan 1051?
D Mason, I'll make a motion to table.
This is Ella, I'll second.
Okay, so the motion to table site development plan 1051 has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's.
Thank you.
And the next matter,
Excuse me, who made the motion? He didn't say his name.
I'm sorry?
Who made the motion?
D
Dean
Mason.
Nason.
Dean, okay, and then Ella seconded, got it, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Next matter is site development plan 1052, 201 Main Street. It's a site plan review for a proposed mixed-use building consisting of 17 apartments and 1,949 square feet of ground floor commercial tenant space. It's the application of David McCarthy, property of Heritage Reed Hughes LLC, Assessor's Map 102, Block 6, Lot 25, Zone CC, CAM Overlay District. Is there somebody here?
So,
No one
yeah,
can-
Deanna, Dave McCarthy is on. Dave, do you want me to let you share your screen for a presentation?
Good evening, everyone. That would be wonderful. I don't think I have to show too much. Just would like to show you the rendering and the updated floor plan.
Okay. Go for it.
Right. Give me 1 second here.
So just so you know, Dan did the review for 201 Main Street. Just to refresh while they're doing this, this is the previous Regan Hughes property that had come before the commission. And was approved back in 2019. It was the Women's Institute application previously. They have gone defunct. The property went kind of little issues with who owned it, how it was being owned, and then it has been purchased, and they're moving forward. So with this application, Dan did the review of it. There is changes to what was originally approved. They did not want to build out which was originally approved, which is more for affordable veterans housing. And so a little different application. They're going to talk about that. But I would ask at the end that we have a motion to expire the previous application, and we could talk about that later, 1902, because that approval is really going to be moot after you hear this one, if you make an affirmative decision on it. And also, they never filed the land records, the special permit, or the drawings on it. But I would like to just to kind of go away depending on what happens here, okay? Just wanted to give you some history.
Okay, so Mr. McCarthy, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Deanna, and thank you, commissioners, for hearing our reapplication. My name's David McCarthy. I'm the president of Heritage Housing, Inc. We are the managing member of Heritage Reed Hughes LLC, which owns the property. As Deanna indicated, the Reed and Hughes building has had numerous attempts to renovate it over the past 20 years or so. And we were brought into this after we purchased the Warrigan building across the street from Bruce Becker. We took a look at it and we decided what could possibly go wrong. So we purchased the vacant Reed and Hughes building from Whitehead, who, as Deanna had indicated, was bankrupt at the time. In August of 2022, I believe. And we've been working over the last year and a half to assemble financing to renovate this property. Just a very quick overview. It is a department, formerly a former department store built in the 1860s originally. We're planning to convert the existing structure into 17 apartments that would be rented at essentially market rates. And although we are planning to impose an 80% of area median income restriction, which in Norwich means not very much, because it's actually less, it's actually higher than the market rates in that location. But it will provide a cap on the market rates in the future. We are also planning to create about 2,000 square feet of first floor commercial space in the building. A quick explanation. This property is a bit unique in that I'm just going to go up to the elevations here. The existing building is the lot. There is literally no other land on this property than the existing building. The property line ends on the back face of the wall, on the front face of the wall, and on the side faces that border neighboring properties. So there are a number of constraints that we've had to work through. Obviously, one being the absence of parking. Another one being getting trash out of the building, which I believe was noted in the planner's report. We made some changes to Whitehead's plan because ultimately we just didn't feel like Whitehead's plan really worked, which is one of the reasons it never moved forward. Just going to skip forward to the floor plan. On the first floor, we haven't changed very much. There was an existing variance that allowed 3 apartments in the first floor. We've maintained those 3 apartments in place. The commercial space you can see will face the street. And per our rendering, we've made it possible for there to be 1 or 2 commercial spaces. You see there's an entrance door up here with a side entrance that could make this potentially 1 commercial space, and then there's a main entrance in the front that could be a second commercial space. And so we're planning to lease the space as either 1 or 2 commercial units. On the upstairs, as the planner's report indicated, we removed the elevator. I was taking a lot of space and adding a lot of cost, and it wasn't really required for this type of occupancy. The apartments in the original plan were very small. There were 20 apartments in the building, and some of them were as small as about 400 square feet. So we made all the units more generously sized. They range from about 650 square feet on the small end to as high as about 1,100 square feet on the larger end. There are going to be 11 one-bedroom apartments and 6 two-bedroom apartments. And our plan is to renovate the building according to the Secretary of Interior standards for historic rehab. We will be receiving both state and federal historic tax credits for this project, and we'll be following the guidelines for those as far as the rehab goes. Most of that applies to the exterior of the building. And then very quickly, the last change I want to note is that the basement, which in the original plan, there was a community room, and we felt like that just wasn't a very good decision. The basement is in the floodplain. It was going to be it was not going to be a very nice space because there's no natural light in the basement. And we felt like putting community space into the basement with no natural light in a floodplain, it may be theoretically amenity space, but we didn't feel like it was actually going to be effective. Because of our ownership of the Warrigan across the street, which does have very nice amenity spaces, it has a large ballroom and a gym. We've agreed to make the amenities available to the tenants of Reed and Hughes for a period of 7 years, or as long as we own both buildings. We just don't feel like a 17-unit building would benefit that much from amenity space, and the space we could provide in the basement just wouldn't be very good and would be susceptible to flooding. I think that covers the major changes from the prior application. Everything else about what we're planning to do is very similar to what Whitehead had proposed and you had approved in 2019. So I'll open it up for questions at that point.
Anybody have questions for Mr. McCarthy?
Yes,
Gordo?
Mr. McCarthy, this is Jim Cordo, and I remember there was a little bit of that building that was owned by I think the owner of the parking lot in the back. Very small area of the Reed and Hughes was owned by
Any word.
maybe the Lord family, yes.
Yes.
So how, is that all cleared up?
The ownership of the property has been cleared up, and it was cleared up through a legal agreement that occurred before we took ownership of Reed and Hughes. The space you're denoting, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so right here, right about here, there's a little garage that if you drive behind the Reed and Hughes building, you would see it. It appears to be attached to the building, but it is actually, in fact, a separate structure, and it is, as you noted, owned by the Lord family. and part of their parking lot. So our obligation to them is simply to be a good neighbor. That garage is not our property, and all we have to do is just not disturb it.
I do have a question.
Kathy has a question.
Yes, as usual. Storage for the units, like, could you use that basement so people could store their bikes and things like that? I mean, that might be something good, especially if you have people, single people or young people.
I think, can Dan chime in on that? Because
Actually, Kathy, we had a bike storage as part of the original approval.
Yeah.
And I didn't include anything about it in my memo, but I wanted to bring it up during this because I do feel that it needs to be part of some area of the basement, so residents can at least store their bikes down there.
Yeah, and
it's
maybe
required in our
other,
regulation
yeah.
to have bike storage, so, if it's not exterior because he doesn't have land outside to
Oh,
put a
right.
bike rack, we do need, it is section, I can tell you what section it's just.
well,
check.
I just. I think-
5131 needs bike racks.
Yeah, I think we should have some storage for people. who live
I would
there.
say other kinds of storage, you don't want people, if it is a special flood hazard area.
Flood hazard,
There,
right.
you don't wanna have any kind of residential storage like, that people put in apartment buildings, but,
Right.
bike storage was there before and I think it's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, and generally, if there's gonna be a flood, you kind of know when it's going to happen, but, they can move their bikes or move, whatever they have down there.
Is there access to that basement area from the street level in the back?
Well, there is, this door here
Yeah.
would provide access to the Lord's parking lot, and we are in the process, we have requested an agreement with the Lord family to have access to that lot for the sole purpose of getting our trash out of the building. I don't expect that I can't say for sure that, approval of our tenants going through that space with bikes would be approved by them. And as you probably have to appreciate, that's not something we really have control over, their agreement or not agreement to that. We can certainly ask for it.
So the bike access would be via stairs from the first floor?
The alternative, correct, would be to egress bikes out either of these two doors here that provide access to the apartments.
Yeah, and you said there's no elevators, so if you want your bike downstairs, you gotta carry it down.
Right. One thing we could look at, if it's meaningful to the commission, is there is this kind of notched space here. We could look at creating a small bike storage area in there, so that the basement really is not a major, not the issue. We did talk about a little
It's hard to
package room.
see, is that in the back of the commercial space you're saying?
Yeah, I
But how would
don't
you
know
get, how would you
useful.
get there without walking through the commercial space?
Well, we could add a door right onto the resident corridor here.
And how big would that be?
It's not very large. I mean, you can see if I zoom in here, 7 feet is the depth of the space, and width would be maybe 12 feet, if I had to guess. But with 17 tenants, I just don't expect there would be that many bicycles in this building.
Any other questions?
One more I have
One
for
more.
you, Mr. McCarthy, Jim Quarto again. When Mr. Becker was in town, he was interested in this building. He talked about some alternative type energies. I think they were gas cogeneration or gas modules. Do you remember anything like that? Are you involved with anything like that? Or have you thought about anything like that?
We are not. This building is a pretty conventional construction. We are doing high efficiency heat pump units in the apartments, which we've done throughout Connecticut, and we're very happy with those. We are meeting energy code requirements, which have gotten stiffer, as you know, over in the last few years, but we're not doing any kind of special energy generation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay,
You wanted Dan to, Dan, are you completely done with any of your comments?
Dan,
We can't hear you.
Dan?
Sorry. If David
Okay.
unshares his screen, I can bring up my memo. If
Okay.
nobody has any questions on the plan set here.
I think the questions regarding it was for Mr. McCarthy are done from what I can tell, so if you want to give your report, that would be good.
Just a quick thought, while I was looking at this, there's definitely space here for bike storage. And if the commission would like it, we can put in racks here, and that would actually be even easier for tenants to use because it's closer to the door. That's probably the best place to put them, honestly.
How big is that space?
Does
it look very
like,
big?
this space here is about a little under 6 feet wide by about 5 feet deep. So you could probably fit, 3 or 4 bicycles there. And then I think you could probably fit another 2 right here.
Okay. So we'll let Dan make his comments for the record now.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. Dan?
Okay, so David's presentation was pretty thorough. As he mentioned, they're consolidating small apartments into larger units, reducing the unit count from 20 to 17, which is why we're now at a site development plan. They removed the planned space in the basement. They removed the elevator. The front facade of the building on Main Street is identical to the previous approval. The only thing that happened outside was they moved a window on one of the sides to match the interior layout of the apartments. As is customary, I shopped it around to other departments. We have comments back and forth. The fire marshal does have comments. I'd ask again, if someone does make a motion for approval, if you include that the fire marshal's comments are addressed. The project is exempt from CAM because all work is within the building. We talked a little bit about the bikes here. I am okay with the proposal to put that bike storage on that first floor. If the commission chooses to do so, it is required by the zoning regulations. We talked about the weekly trash pickup and discussions with the Lords. Any proposed signage needs to be reviewed by staff and the Chelsea Central District. The commission should, I think you should talk about proposed landscaping, maybe in pots or planters on the sidewalk. It's the precedent's been set with other projects you've approved downtown in the past few years that don't really have any green space.
791 Main Street.
Yeah, 77 to 91 Main Street would be a good example of that.
Because they had no green space in front of the building. It's right on it on Watery Main Street. So they're doing potted plants outside. To have more elements of.
Right. And then any proposed exterior lighting shall be period appropriate and full cutoff. And he did already talk about the recreation space being allowed for in the Warregan building across the street. That being said, if someone wishes to make a motion for approval, I have my bullet points here and number 10 on the memo, with the addition of the fire marshal's comments being addressed and anything you may decide about potted plants or landscaping and the bike storage. And suggested reasons would be the proposal conforms to section 2.6, chapter 5, section 6.5 and 7.5 of the zoning regulations.
Okay,
And as Deanna mentioned earlier, she's gonna be looking for a motion to expire the previous approval as part of all this.
We do first.
I think you could make the motion on this one first,
first,
and then if it
before we
gets approved,
expire
then
the
it's
second one.
yeah.
Okay.
So, is there any other questions before anybody wants to make a motion on this?
Just in clarification, Deanna, where is the parking and how many parking spots are dedicated to this?
So there is no parking
parking.
required in the zoning regulations because it's a reuse of a building that's already there. If there is parking that is associated with the building, you can't get rid of it. So you can add on to it, but you can't get rid of it. You could ask the applicant what his plans. I think that's an appropriate thing. If Mr. McCarthy wants to respond to you on this, he can.
Did you hear that, Mr. McCarthy, about the parking?
I did. At the Warrigan, we own a garage that faces onto Broadway. And our property manager there has told me we could rent 5 to maybe 10 spaces in that garage for Reed and Hughes tenants, and we would charge for anyone who wants parking. We've also approached the Lord family about renting some spaces from them in the adjoining lot. Those negotiations are ongoing, but there may be an opportunity to also rent some spaces there. Beyond that, we would encourage our tenants to make use of other public parking areas that are available throughout downtown Norwich.
But parking would not hinder the development here at all.
You can't apply that because there is no parking there now, and because it's an urban environment, I think the intention with urban environments is not to take down buildings to put in parking. It's like, it's to work with what you have, and really it's to encourage them to use public transportation. The encouragement is not to have vehicles when you're in a city, is to really use the public transportation, and that's why bicycle racks are required in those things, so people can use other alternative transportation modes than just ride down having vehicles.
So what is the regulation regarding the bicycle racks?
It's 5.1.3.1, I think it is. Oh, it states. Hold on. It states. Second. 5.1.3.1 bicycle parking racks. Bicycle parking facilities shall be provided as part of any new multifamily development of 4 dwelling units or more, which is or new retail, office, and institutional developments greater than 10,000 suite, and it should be in all transit transfer stations and park and ride lots. So it has more than 4 dwelling units there, and it says more new retail, office, and institutional developments. So we have applied that, with the.
Does it say how much?
It doesn't, it doesn't, it's bicycle parking facility. Usually it's an outdoor bike rack, usually, but because there's no land here, that's why. And the same thing applied to 7791 Main Street, because there's no land associated with that as well, exterior.
So what do we do with them?
They have bike racks inside, interior storage. And plantings were potted plants for landscaping.
All right, so given all that, does anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the application, that bike racks be provided based on Dan's review of this, because we know Dan understands that whole issue. And that all of his comments under, what is it? What number is it, Dan? 10?
Yep, 10.
Be included, and that the fire marshal, their comments be included in plantings, and I don't know what the commission wants to do about that, require potted plants or.
How'd we do it before, besides requiring potted plants?
Yeah.
Is it a review by
I think that's what it said. It was that they provided decorative plantings outside that were reviewed by staff or something approved by staff. We
And
haven't
there's
seen
enough-
them yet.
And
They
there's
haven't applied.
enough room in the sidewalk for that.
I believe there is, because it could be right against the building, they, you know, they could do
Could
square.
be like a
ones
little
in there.
flower box in the
Yep.
front, yeah,
They could
that's
do
fine.
anything, small, narrow ones.
Yeah, that's fine.
So do you want to say, so what do you
Yes.
want to say, the fire marshal comment
And planting subject to staff review, preferably like a flower box type thing, so not too. But that's up to you.
oh, do you want to say to not hint to, in locations not to hinder sidewalk or something like
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Ella, I'll second.
Ella seconds. You made it there, Ella. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion carries and the site development plan 1052-201 Main Street is approved with the conditions as well. And we're gonna do another motion.
I'd like a motion to expire special permit number 1902 as the approval is now moot due to the fact that the special permit was never filed in the land records and the Mylars were never filed. The special permit and Mylars were never filed in the land records, and you have now a new approval for this site. So if we can expire in 1902.
We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jim Porto. Do we have a second?
This is Ella, I'll second.
Ella seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
So,
I want to also say, not about that, we also have to approve the coastal site plan, right?
No coastal site plan on this because there was no.
It's exempt.
There's no.
Oh, okay, okay, but it does say, oh, it's in the Luscano district.
It was in the
Okay.
district, okay?
All right, very good.
So we got Jim
Thank
and
you.
Ella, and it was unanimous, thank you.
okay, and the motion to expire is carried also.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so the next matter is old business.
Thank
regarding-
you, everyone. Good
You're
night.
welcome. Thank you, sir. Regarding the Tafaloccum Road, and I've recused myself from this matter. So I'm gonna turn this rest of the meeting over to, I guess, Kathy as the senior person here, unless somebody else wants to do it. And I'm gonna go home.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. Right. Then we will seat Jason for this. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Did you hear that, Gene? Jason is now seated.
Gene?
I did, yep.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Frank.
See you next month.
See you, Brian.
See you soon.
Good night.
So
Good night.
leaving at what time is it? Oh,
It's I have 8:48 on my watch.
okay, 47.
Night all.
Good night. Good night, 47. Yeah, good. Oh,
Okay, so this is
seated.
deliberation and potential discussion on following application and associated waivers for subdivision 437, 145 Tafaloccum Road and 432 Canterbury Turnpike and 180 Lawler Lane. And I'm not gonna read the rest.
So the public hearing is closed on this, so there'll be no additional testimony from the public on it. This is your chance to deliberate. You do have Rich Roberts, who is your land use attorney, working on your behalf, that's here. Do you want to share some insight to them? If they, Kathy, can you share some insight for you?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key things to look at and consider are set forth in Deanna's memo dated the 19th. At the last public hearing, a number of purported intervention petitions were submitted. They were not valid. Another one was submitted following the close of the hearing.
Just want to say, be careful on your way out. It's very slippery.
Okay, I can call Mike real quick when you continue.
Okay. Another one was submitted following the close of the public hearing. We're not endorsing the fact that something submitted following the close of the public hearing is effective either, but what we advised staff was essentially to look at the contents of the petition, look at the contents of the memo from the engineer that the member of the public had make the presentation, go through those things and determine whether or not there was anything in there that was problematic. So, Brian has a lengthy memo that you can read. He identified some, he went through each of the items in that memorandum. He identified some possible conditions of approval that would address those comments and provided his professional opinion at the end. I think the other thing that you need to pay attention to is the fact that there are some requested waivers. And it probably makes sense to address the waivers first, because if the waivers aren't granted, there will have to be changes to the plans, so you may not even want to go beyond the waivers tonight. So that staff can basically figure out what changes need to be made to the plans. If those waivers aren't granted, I think, they're pretty self-explanatory, but that may be something that, would need to be done. I don't remember where we ended up on that, but I think it's, it's one of those things where I don't think you want to be sitting here at 10 o'clock tonight coming up with new technical conditions.
No, but I think what we did was made it so that if they were not granted, that the items that were addressed in those waivers have to be added back into the plan, whatever
Right.
those things were. So I think that in theory, we could probably, the commission could probably act on it if they wanted to, but they would have to
Change it.
change what we're recommending for most, if that happened. We're just preparing.
So I have a quick question for you about the waiver for the road. So they want 211 feet travel lanes. So what is the total width? Because I have this plan, but what's the total width of the paved area? No, well, it would be 22 feet, but with the travel lane. So what?
36.
So
Is
it's
wave construct roads with a width of 22. Opposed to 211-foot single lanes in each direction.
so.
What's up for exhibit?
So the width of the pavement is 36,
22.
is only 22.
And the sidewalk would be one single 10-foot wide sidewalk instead of two
Yeah,
smaller ones.
that's pretty narrow.
Your truck's about 8 to 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
It was all approved by the city planner and the fire marshal.
Right, but I'm just thinking, we need to think about if that is wide enough. I mean, I'm just, so being the planner in Preston, Route 2A is, going through Preston City, Pocatonic Village, you know where that is? So that going through there, that's,
50.
no, that's 22. 22. It might, but I think it goes probably a little bit more on each side, so it's probably 30.
Kathy, if you look at the screen, the waiver request is to 30 feet. It's 211.
30, okay,
with
okay,
two
good.
4-foot
Yeah,
paved
that's fine.
shoulders.
All right, that's good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I couldn't remember that. Okay, good. All right. Let's try to think about how wide it was. Yeah, okay, good. All right. Okay, so you want to discuss first the pavement width. Waiver of the pavement width. Commission members, any comments on that? Okay. Ella, any comments on that?
No, I don't have any comments on that.
Okay, so then I would ask for a request to waive the pavement width from 36 to 30 with 2 11-foot lanes. And a 4-foot shoulder.
Dan, could you pull the page down a little so I can look at the date of that document? Thank you. What does it have his date on it? Oh, November 20, thank you.
And that was recommended by the town, the city engineer.
Yes.
Any motion?
So waiting for someone to say,
I'd like to make, this is Jason Cora, I'd like to make a motion to support the waiver for making the street to a 30-foot width instead of 36 feet.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, then. What's your vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
no, who was the second on that waiver? Jason made the motion. Who was the second?
I did.
I'm sorry, thank you. That was Jim Porter. And it was unanimous for that waiver. Okay.
Okay, so the second waiver is from section 19.27.8. And it's for curbs and gutters. The requested elimination of the curb and gutters from the typical roadway cross section is also in keep, okay, crossway, that's it, just the waivers for the curbs and gutters. Okay, any questions or any discussion regarding this?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Ella?
No questions.
Okay, very good. Can I entertain a motion?
This is Jason Cora, I'd like to make a motion to eliminate the curbs and gutters and keep the design with the current low impact development standard.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Nope, okay, all in favor?
All
All
right,
right,
Aye. Ella said aye too, right?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, okay, sidewalks. Okay, so they want to eliminate a sidewalk on both sides, and they want to have sidewalk only on one side. They're going to make it a multi-use trail as an alternative. And I would like to hear if there's any questions about this. What's the material? I can't remember.
It's a
Is it
single,
paved?
side
Is
by
it
side.
bituminous?
a single 10-foot wide sidewalk built of pervious concrete that will be available for pedestrian, hiking, biking, and other recreational uses. That will be approximately 7,700 linear feet from Route 97.
So what is it gonna be? What's the material?
Oh, it says pervious concrete.
Oh, okay, so it's not gonna be like stone dust or
No,
anything.
pervious
Okay,
concrete.
good. All right, that's good. All right, motion,
I'll make a motion that we accept section 19.27.2.
You mean that you, the waiver of the sidewalk?
The waiver of the sidewalks. That's written.
Okay.
okay, is there a second?
This is Ella. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
all right,
Aye.
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 So it's unanimous.
Great. Okay, now comes the really fun part. Okay, so. Are there any questions about or Deanna, you want to make your report on this, or what do you
Well, I
want to
can't
do?
really provide any additional
Information. Right,
so what I
gave
did.
us all the,
I did, I provided you, speaking with the attorneys, because I'm staff, I can kind of take all the information from the previous meetings and just provide them to you. That's why Rich Roberts is here, if you have any particular questions about anything, and that was in my consolidated memo of your information that you had brought up at that meeting from January 9th. My memo was dated January 19th from the December 19th meeting.
okay, go ahead.
No, I don't know what anyone wants to talk about.
Okay, so let's, is there anything anyone would like to talk about on this?
Well, I think if you read what Brian Long said. And all the memos that Deanna included from the attorneys, Howland and stuff, I think all those issues were addressed. that need to be addressed at this time, and a lot of them will be deferred later to the individual site plans of the buildings themselves. So I have no issues outstanding. I think they've all been addressed. That's my opinion.
All right. Anybody else have any other comments about the drainage?
I agree.
I do have a comment on that. I just think that there was a lot missing on this plan. I think that there was a lot brought up by the letter that was submitted, the neighborhood letter that was submitted. And it can all be addressed, but that should have been a lot of that should have been on the plan. I mean, it really should have. I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, I think that it should have been done. A lot of that stuff should have been on the plan. All right.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess my only comment on that is that if the hearing had been continued, we
Right.
could have
And
addressed it, and this is sort of
right.
a way to backfill the
Fill,
same
right.
result by
But
having an independent review by your city engineer say, all right, these things
can be
need to be
addressed
done.
at a later date. But, and that, I guess that's another point that I would like to make, that if we did have that extension, we would have been able to see all of this information on the plans. So, and that was a little disappointing to me. Okay. Hey, everybody, okay with the drainage then? No,
Yes.
no other questions? Okay.
In the report, they exceeded what was required in some areas.
I don't know, but. Okay, so then. I know I had a whole bunch of things that I wanted to talk about. Okay. In Deanna's letter, she does address the issue of the buffer and the 100-foot,
16, 17, and 18.
yeah, 7, yeah.
And that was incorporating the
Yeah.
comments that you had made.
Right,
previously,
right.
But there is a typo in my 17.
I know there is,
And it's a standard 50 and it says 5,
Five,
it's missing
right.
the 0, so
Right,
just.
right.
you
right,
know.
that's no problem, but, it would have, again, it would have been nice to see that on the plan. I'm just saying, it would have been nice. Also,
But that's a change you would ask for on the fly.
right, no, but they could, if the hearing was extended, we could have seen that on the plan. Although I think we said,
But verbally, they said they could move
They would
that
do it,
site
right.
to accommodate.
right,
that.
right, but you don't know the height and anything like that, but that can be determined when the site plan is submitted. Okay, and then, just making sure those crosswalks would be installed. At each driveway, so people who are there can, cross the street to get access to the multi-use path. All right, and then what else did I want to ask? The open space, everybody okay with the open space?
They were exceeding what was required.
Well, a lot of it is wetland. I thought that they could have provided a little bit more upland soils.
I agree too. I would like much more open space, but if the requirements.
Well,
they
but
want, they-
I would like to ask this question. We can ask for more than what they provided, given the fact that, and I'm not saying I want to do that, but we don't have to accept what they're proposing.
It's not a simple answer.
Right.
And I'm not gonna belabor it or anything,
Right.
but I mean, basically you can ask.
I know, but we
And-
can't now.
Well, no, and you also have to demonstrate that there is some
Right.
reason why more open space
Would be,
would be required than is ordinarily provided
Oh.
or ordinarily required under the regulations, and that what is offered is not satisfactory.
Mhm.
And that may be easier in a residential subdivision where you want to have kids go play, but here that doesn't work. The other thing too is that, the one Connecticut case that basically says, or has been interpreted to say that commissions can pick and choose the open space was based on regulations in that town that essentially said
You can pick
the
and choose.
commission can pick and choose.
I have a question for you. So in the industrial district, is residential allowed?
In
In this
that,
industrial district?
in the plan. This is, it's the plan development.
Because
I'm gonna verify this.
I'm just saying, look what happened to our other.
This is plan development design district and the general portion. So hold on one second, I can give you a general. Is this fair to ask, answer this question for them?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in the regulations.
okay, so just giving you the regular, hold on one second.
You're saying that right now the open space is not based on what requires to was residential.
Well, I think what we need to look at is, and I would like to get a breakdown of what in that, what that open space is, how much is
So
wetlands, how
in
much is.
general commercial district, we allow for mixed use buildings, okay? Not clearly residential in general, in the general commercial. In the other adjacent zone, hold on, with the plan development design district, hold on a second.
It's not allowed, Deanna.
Thank you. It was previously in the business park zone, which is not the zone that this property is
Okay.
in. And that's where you had the residential, and then it was removed out of that zone.
Okay, that's
So
good.
that was the business.
Yeah,
That's-
I have it on the screen right now.
Thank you, Dan, for,
but the commercial area is not as large as it's not as much. And
So residential is not allowed.
only in the commercial.
mixed use is allowed in the commercial section. Do you want to see where the zone line is? Do you want to see that? It's
in the very beginning.
On the other end.
it's on, hold on. Let me just find it.
River.
It's from 97 up to Canterbury, correct, Dan?
Right, that's right. There.
Oh, take it was.
So it's the first little.
I'll bring it up.
It's right here.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
I can
yes.
tell you, it's right
Okay,
here,
thank
it's the beginning, right, so it's maybe about,
East end.
yeah, it's about a quarter of the land, maybe,
I don't know, I didn't get the percentage of that.
yeah, but it looks like that, maybe a little more, maybe a third.
I don't have the really large plan of that
Okay,
with me right
that's
now,
good
I'm
enough.
sorry.
So
It's on
everybody-
the screen,
I'm
Deanna.
showing you the zoning. And then move the page so they can see the other remaining that's zoned,
The blue area is.
is the
mixed
general
use area,
commercial,
General commercial.
and that's plan development.
But is the whole? Oh, I guess it is, the whole, no, yeah, the whole
No.
thing is, okay, so it looks like it's a little bit more than on here, than I thought. All right. So that is a consideration then. And I think having how many employees?
We don't know because we don't know the intended
but it could-
number
it could
uses that
be
would be in the subdivision.
Substantial. All right, those are the only comments I would have about that. Anybody else have any comments about the open space?
You're saying where an area could potentially be residential, you would want to require more open space?
Well,
I think what we were saying is that if you're going to require more open space than what your regulations require, you have to have some reason tied to the subdivision. And, it was basically that there didn't seem to be a legitimate reason for an industrial subdivision to have more open space as opposed to if it was a, residential subdivision.
but it could become residential, like a lot of our industrial park has become. But another quick question, what is the breakdown of the open space area?
What do you mean, what is the breakdown?
How much wetlands, how much?
I don't know if we have that calculation or not, I just know the acreage, and I don't know if we actually broke that specifically down. I don't know if that's.
So you don't
accurate,
know
but
what is non,
the area in the front along the roadway is absolutely non.
yeah, I know, but how big is it?
The area in the
Yeah.
front. I can try to scale something out for you if you want. Dan, is there a plan that you could call up that we can do a measurement?
Yeah, I need a minute.
And this might not be an issue for anybody else, but it is for me, so I don't know if you want to hear that answer.
Let's give us some- so we can scale. Do you want me to run upstairs and scale it up?
No, that's all right.
No, 'cause Dan's looking at something now, but I can run up there. It's easier for me to scale it with my scale on the plan.
I just see it as a lot of those things we're gonna deal with. When the individual applicants, again,
Per lot.
a lot.
Well, but this is the subdivision and this is when we can require it.
This is
Although
just
if
for
they
the-
do-
This is just for the road going in
Right,
and
and
the
the
site,
subdivision. Right,
and the subdivision, not what's going in there and what the use is gonna be for.
Right.
but the potential exists that they could have residential.
That'll be addressed later on.
Well, but you couldn't request open space.
Within a lot, you could.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
I want to clarify, and I think that on a site plan, if somebody came in for a mixed use residential, let's just say. We would probably require in our regulations for multifamilies, we talk about recreation space that's on, in the development for, like we just had at this last discussion, what is the recreational amenities? I think that may be something that could be addressed on a site-by-site basis.
Yeah.
Relative to if you had a number of units there, what is their recreational amenities on that site?
All right, okay, I just wanted to know,
Do
okay.
you want
so-
that, do you want Dan to calculate the kind of upland area there on that for open space for you? Dan, is there a way you can do a kind of quick scaling of that out?
I mean, it's split across multiple pages. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
But the front area you can see is outside wetlands
Yeah.
there. That's,
Hmm.
and if you look at it in relation to other sizes of buildings, it's fairly significant
Now,
upland.
in the back of lot 9, can we go to that where they're showing that, it's all wooded there? Can you go to the page that has the recommended or potential development? See that
this
big-
page,
Yeah, see that big spot that there's nothing proposed within the area? Go down
Dan's got it.
south
Oh,
of that.
yeah.
See right there, it's
Mhm.
all wooded, right? That's not wetlands. And it looks like it's not accessible. But it could be,
I think because the wetlands cut it off, so they can't build anything in that area.
right, so it's like useless land, but maybe it could be. I don't know if it could be accessible to us, to the. Anyway, it's just a thought, and, you know, we could have like little hiking trails for the people who work at the industrial or the business park there. But we can't. We could modify it, I guess, right?
I don't think so at this point. When that site's developed, you could do it then, I believe.
No. I think that,
I think that if somebody came in for a site plan for lot 9. And it was a use that have to have a lot of employees or had a mixed use, you know, like oh no, couldn't do mixed use there, because no mixed use there, but the other end, so if this came in with I don't know. Some, I don't know, in use that may be having a lot of they make widget makers, and they have a lot of employees. I mean, at that time, you could say, well, what are you doing, you know? You should be, maybe you could consider, are you considering lunch spots for, you know, your
But we can't
employees?
require that at that point.
Probably not, I would say, it's fair to say.
Well, you could request it and discuss it at the time and so forth, but I think, you know, that if you're weighing the discussion between, can you talk about it when you're talking about developing lot 9 versus, you know, requiring it to be set aside right now, when there is no proposed use and no nexus to the subdivision that would justify more open space above and beyond the excess open space that they've already
Yeah, the
provided.
7%, which is only 2% over what we require.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, I mean,
I don't have a problem with it. I was
Yeah.
I just am of the opinion that most of that property is wetlands, and I don't think that. Okay, so, all right, so I got all my stuff out. What is the desire of the commission?
Looks like we should make a motion to approve sub 437 due to the fact that they proposed project conforms to the city of Norwich subdivision regulations
With conditions?
Yes.
with the conditions that exist 16, 17, and 18 in the
No,
memo.
in the whole memo.
Oh, the whole memo, okay.
I think it would be item 6 in Deanna's memo
Yeah.
of January 19th plus the 11 points raised in Brian Long's memo.
1 to 11.
At the last page, right?
All the bolding here.
Yeah, the last page.
So can you clarify, I'm just gonna read back what you just said, a motion to approve subdivision 437 with conditions number 6 of the planner's memo and the 11 points, 11 points, summarized in the city engineer's memo.
Yep.
Okay, dated
22.
20. No, and my date was 1/9, the city planners, number 6 of planners memo was dated. All right,
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna read that back to you just to make sure that I have what you're saying.
Deanna, can you read that a little louder and clearer?
Yes, a motion, this is what I'm hearing and they have to verify, motion to approve subdivision 437 with the conditions number 6 of the planners memo dated 1/19/2024 and the 11 points summarized in the city engineers memo dated 1/22/24. Stop what we heard,
Yes.
and that was Jason, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And I'll second that
Okay,
motion.
so say who you are on the record. Jim Porto
Jim
seconded.
Porto, and I will second Jason's motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ella?
No,
I'm gonna say no too.
Okay, so we have 5 members that are seated and it passed with 3 to 2, so it has been granted.
Good.
Okay, we want to move on. Is that all right?
Okay. There are other items on the agenda.
Yeah.
Right. Any extensions?
No,
Okay, bond releases?
no,
Other business?
no,
We're skipping over staff report.
We
and
are.
we're going to adjournment.
okay.
No, I'm only kidding.
No,
Staff
we are,
report?
No, we can skip that.
yeah, we can report at the next meeting, and at next meeting, I would probably put a executive session, so we can catch you up on some things as well.
Oh,
Okay, yes,
are you gonna be here?
I don't know what they are.
no, I don't know. Probably not, we'll talk, okay,
All right, good.
motion.
Adjourn?
Dean Mason, motion to adjourn.
this is Ella, I'll second.
Oh, I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah,
All right.
all in favor?
Aye.
Got it. Go to the
Okay,
list.
we are,
Time.
9:19 adjournment.
Yes.
Thank
for your
you.
help tonight.
Okay.
No, I'm not-